tell you a story. This one's about the time when Loki, successfully I might add, convinced Thor to dress up as a bride to get his hammer back. And before we move forward, we're talking about this Loki. Not this one, this Loki. Not the Marvel one. Again, we're talking about this Thor too. Not the Marvel one. Trust me, I really want to talk about the Marvel ones as well, but this story is just as insane. You see, Thor is this Norse god of thunders, storms, and protection. He wields this hammer, it's called Mjolnir, that kind of channels and concentrates his power. Loki is this trickster god that basically causes mischief in everything that he does. Anyway, the story starts off one peaceful morning with the birds chirping outside the window, the sun rising over the horizon, and the sun's rays slowly entering through the curtain slits. Thor wakes up, gets ready for the day, and when he finally reaches for his hammer, he realizes that it's missing. He goes around the entire castle just searching for it, except it is nowhere to be found, so he is completely worried and tells Loki that his hammer has been lost. So Loki and Thor, they search throughout the castle, except none of them could find where the hammer was. So they go to ask for help from Freya. You see, Freya is this really, really beautiful goddess that is associated with love, beauty, fertility, and even magic that allows her to see and influence the future. So Thor and Loki, they go to her court to ask for her help. Freya, she gives him her feather cloak. It's kind of like this weapon that allows her to transform into any winged creature that could let her travel into all these realms. So Loki takes the feather cloak, he wraps it around himself, and travels across the different realms searching for the hammer, except he can't find it anywhere. So he finally goes home to Jotunheim. There, he meets one of the Jotun lords, Thrym. And Loki just vents to Thrym about Thor and his lost hammer, and Thrym just laughs. Loki is confused. Here he was just roaming across the different realms in search of a hammer that Thor couldn't take care of, and Thrym was laughing at him? When Thrym finally stops laughing, he tells Loki that he was the one that stole the hammer, and that he had hidden it 8 leagues beneath the earth, and that there was only one way for him to give up the hammer. When Loki asks him what the condition is for Thrym to give up the hammer, Thrym says that he would only give it up if Freya was brought to marry him. So Loki sighs. He just shakes his head and then heads back to Asgard. And when Thor asks Loki if he found anything, he tells him everything that he discovered. He tells Thor that Thrym was the one that stashed the hammer 8 leagues under the earth, and that the only way he would retrieve the hammer was if Freya married him. Because according to Thrym, although he has all the treasured animals in the universe, all the treasures in all the realms, the only thing that was missing was Freya. So Thor and Loki, they go to Freya. They beg her to dress up as a bride and marry Thrym so Thor could get his hammer back. But Freya, rightfully so, goes into a rage. What do you mean? What do you mean she has to dress up as a bride? She gave them the feather cloak in search of a hammer that Thor had lost, by the way, and they came back asking for more from her? Oh no. No. That was not happening. She leaves her court in a rage and abandons Thor and Loki to sort out their own mess. Thor and Loki, they're in over their heads. So they just call in an assembly of all the gods and they try to come up with a plan to get the hammer back. And Heimdall, in all of his wisdom, suggests Thor should dress up as a bride himself and go in the place of Freya to get his hammer back. But Thor just scoffs. He wasn't going to dress himself up like a bride for that. Oh, heck no. But Loki, he stops for a moment and he thinks. And then he tells Thor that this could possibly be the only way for them to get Mjolnir back. Because if they didn't do this, Thrym could use the power of the hammer to overtake Asgard and the gods themselves. Thor is not convinced though. So Loki continues. He promises Thor that he would basically accompany him like a handmaiden. That gives Thor a bit of peace. So eventually, they dress up Thor as this beautiful bride. Even Freya comes back to help him by giving him her jewelry. Once Thor was finally made into this beautiful bride, they place this veil on Thor's head so Thrym cannot see the bride's face, basically trying to trick him. And Loki shapeshifts into this woman, and both of them, they get on Thor's goat-driven chariot and ride off into Jotunheim. Thrym is very happy, and in his happiness, he does not bother to check for anything. He orders a huge feast, and in the celebrations, the disguised Thor and Loki kinda let loose. Thor gets lost in the celebrations and he eats and drinks like a maniac. He basically finishes entire animals and 3 barrels of meat. And now Thrym is confused. This was not the Freya that the tales told him. All the stories? Oh no, that was not this Freya. And Loki notices Thrym's confusion because before Thrym could say anything, Loki's just like, oh, don't worry about it. Freya's just celebrating. She was excited for this union with you. She had not eaten anything for 8 entire days because she was that excited. And Thrym is so touched, so completely touched, that he goes near her and he lifts her veil because, he wants to kiss her. And you would think, that looking at Thor's angry eyes, Thrym would stop. But all he sees are the terrifying red eyes of Thor, who was disguised as Freya. And again, before Thrym could ask why that was, Loki just comes up with another excuse. And he's like, no, 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 no. Don't worry about that. Freya's just looking like that because in her excitement, she had not slept for the last 8 days. Listen, at this point, anyone would have been confused or even slightly suspicious. But we're talking about Thrym here. And he had always wanted to marry Freya. So now that he was willing to give her anything that she wanted. So he asks her to wish for anything. And Thor, who was disguised as Freya, asks for bridal gifts. And in his happiness, Thrym brings out Mjolnir and lays it on Freya's lap. And the minute Thor gets his hammer back, he does not care for the act anymore. He removes the veil, stands in his full height, holding the hammer, and whacks Thrym. You see, now my question is, Freya knows the magic where she can see into the future. I wonder if she actually saw this happening. Also, how beautiful do you think Thor is dressed up as a bride? Anyway, that's all I have for you tonight. Till next time, good night, sweet dreams.